think I'm recording. All right. So hello everyone, welcome to day 2 of Git and GitHub tutorial. My name is David, and I would be the anchor for this class. So a little about me. I'm a freelance Python programmer and a backend developer. However, I work mostly with machine learning, basically. So I build machine learning models, predictive models in machine learning. But anyways, today we are looking at Git and GitHub, and I'll be facilitating the class. So yesterday, my colleague was supposed to take this class. Unfortunately, we had technical hiccups and he could not proceed. So today I'll take both the fundamentals and a little advanced concepts in GitHub and Git. And but before I go on, I'd like to know my audience. So I have this poll for you all, and I'd like you to answer it. Give me a moment. I get the. Okay. So you guys, this is a poll. I'd like you to click on this link and let me know how familiar you are with Git. So it's a very simple poll. Let me just know how familiar do you think you are with Git and GitHub generally. Can you guys click on the link and let me know if you have any problems? Can we click on the link or something? You guys can turn on your microphone and talk if you need to, or type in the chat box. Or maybe you can type in the chat box if the poll is not working. I just want to know,
okay.
Yeah, how familiar we are with Git, so I know how we can proceed with this class. I'll prefer the class to be interactive. So maybe what we should do, maybe to break the ice, is everybody should maybe type your name in the comment section. Can we do that? Like just type in your name in the comment section. Okay, someone said he has filled the poll. Maybe I need to refresh this. Okay. Oh, this meant I know the basics, but yeah, I guess you know that. So 3 people are filled and they all said they know the basics. So yeah, I guess I may not spend so much time on the basics then. But anyways, can we all introduce ourselves very quickly? Since we are not many, I would like us to just type our names and maybe what we do in the comment section. How about that? Just your name or say I or something. Just say something in the comment section. Let me know I'm talking to people.
Okay, I think I should do that first. Okay, so I'm Techstars. Okay, my name is Akim. So I'm probably the one of the community leads. I'm a software engineer in training and also a program manager, a product manager, a community manager, and I also do SEO contents at a bit of space. So that's few things about me in the tech space.
Oh, cool.
And
cool.
so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, it's nice to have you as well. So for the rest of us, yeah, perfect. We can just type I or something in. Yeah, perfect. Something like that. Yeah. All right. So I think I'm okay with this. At least it gives me some confidence that I'm talking to people. So let's just proceed very quickly. So First off, we call this a Git and GitHub tutorial. So you ask yourself, why are we splitting Git and GitHub? Do they really mean the same thing? But actually, they do not. So we need to like understand what these things are. So we'll start with Git. Now, Git is simply a version control system. And what that means is that it allows us track different versions of our code. Some years ago, I remember when I used to like just type for my final project, even something like that, and I used to use MS Word. Maybe save this particular, and I'll call it final, reports. And then maybe my professor or someone says, "Oh, I need to edit this, and see that." I save again, I'm like final reports. And then someone comes again and say, "Nah, you need to change this, And then I say final, ultimate final reports. And you realize very quickly that it can get messy if we are tracking different versions of our reports that way. So as developers, there's a more seamless way to track different versions of our code, and that is what Git allows us to do. We'll see the functions that Git uses in some slide, but yeah, the bottom line about Git is that it's an open source platform where we can work with different versions of our code, collaborate with different programmers, and just work on a particular project from different people working on a particular project together. So having said that, it's also important to talk about GitHub because it's not actually Git. So Git is like the platform where you can I wouldn't even call Git a platform. Git is really just an open source code where you can collaborate with people. However, those code needs to be hosted somewhere, right? So if you are working with Git, you work with Git on your local machine. You install Git on your local machine and you work with Git on your local machine. But still, you will need to host the code somewhere. So that if, for instance, something happens to your code, or to your laptop, I beg your pardon, you don't lose your files. So if maybe your hard drive crashes or something, or there's a virus that wipes away your code, you don't lose your files. You understand? So that's where GitHub comes in. GitHub allow us host our code on a web server. You understand? And that's what GitHub does. GitHub is a very popular Git hosting platform. There are many other Git hosting platforms, but you have GitHub as a major one, right? For instance, you have GitLab, you have Bitbucket, you have Gitkraken, you have a couple of others. So if you want to just buttress my point, Git is an open source tool that allows us collaborate with different developers on a single project. While GitHub is a Git hosting platform that allows us to manage our Git codebase, or they call it repositories. So Git is actually very popular, and that's why I'll be focusing on GitHub today because, like I mentioned, many people use GitHub. You can see about 73 million developers use GitHub. 84% of Fortune 100 countries, 100 companies uses GitHub, and most tech jobs really require GitHub. So it's important that you really know how Git and GitHub works. Let's get started. The first thing is actually to install Git. This is the okay. You cannot click on it. That's interesting. Okay, maybe I didn't save it. So, but anyways, if I come to this website, this is how we install Git. So if you're having a Linux machine, you use this. You have if you're using Mac, you can just install Git with Brew, or you can type this to show if you have Git or not. So if you don't have Git, it tells you don't have Git, and then you install Git. If you're having Windows, you need to use this to install it. This will help you install Git Bash, and then use Git Bash as your terminal. So I'm guessing, since we all know about Git, everybody has Git installed on their systems, right? Do we all have Git installed?
Yes. Please let's respond to that, surely.
Is that what?
Okay.
Perfect. Manuel said yes, it does. That's cool. Okay, so let's make progress then. If everybody has, let's assume people have Git installed. By the way, we'll be having, of course, practical, as we are talking about the Git command, so we're doing some practical stuff. and it'd be nicer if you can follow me and maybe even type along. Anyway, to confirm that you have Git installed, meanwhile as well, we'll be using the terminal for the most part. So let me send this over. Yeah, so we're using the terminal for the most part. And to confirm that you have Git installed, you just do Git version. And you can see here I do have Git installed on my PC, right? So once that's set, we move on to the next slide. So let me just give an overview of how Git works. Now, there are three important things you need to understand. Although there are four here, but yeah, I think there are three. So the first one you need to really understand is your working directory. So your working directory is your local machine. So say for instance, you want to start a project, you have some files in the projects. If you're doing machine learning, maybe you have a IPython notebook, you have a Python file, you have a couple of files, right? So yeah, you have your working directory. And like I said, the working directory is inside your local machine. The next thing you need to understand is your staging area. Now, the thing is, when you're working with Git and you create a file, Git does not immediately start to track the file, right? Git doesn't want to infringe your privacy, if I put it that way. Git will not track it. Git doesn't even know that you've added the file, right? So you're working on your local machine, fine. Git is installed on your local machine, fine. But Git doesn't care about the new file you have added until you add it to the staging area. So that is called the staging area. And then the command used for that is git add. We'll see that in the coming slides. But once you've put a file in your staging area, it means that whatever you do to that file, Git will take note of it, right? Git will say, oh, you've done something to this file, and then it just takes note of it, right? So, like I said, the first thing you should know is your local machine. Your local machine is where you have the working directory, all the files for your project. Then you have the staging area. The staging area is a place where Git now starts to track the file, right? So any file that goes to the staging area, Git now starts to track. The third thing I think is really important, or let's just talk about this anyway, is your committed, you call it commit history, right? So the thing again is that when a file is in your staging area, Git does not do anything per se. It just keeps track of the file. It just keeps track of it. It doesn't do anything to it, right? But when you commit the file, Git take a snapshot of that moment, or you can just put it simply, Git saves that moment, right? So we've mentioned that, of course, you keep on editing your file. Of course, in the beginning, you just create maybe one file. Maybe tomorrow you require, you need to create more files. And then if you get to a point where you want to save, it just, for instance, I'm working with my with the PowerPoint presentation. If I add a new slide, if I don't save it and I close it and I open it, the new slide I add would not appear, right? So when you're working with Git, it is until you commit whatever you do that Git saves that moment. It saves the moment, right? We'll talk about Git commits in a moment, but I just want to give an overview of how Git works. Right now, once all this happens, you're still working within Git and your local machine. But I mentioned that it's not always good to work with just Git alone. You need to work with a Git hosting platform, or you need to work with some remote server. And I said again that GitHub is the most popular, right? So if once your files, if you have some commits in your Git, it is also a good idea to send those commits to a remote server or to GitHub, because we are working with GitHub today, right? And what you use for that is Git push, as we'll see. So the idea of Git is that you're really interfacing between these different stages. You have the working directory, you have your staging area, you have your commit history, right? And then you have your remote repository, or GitHub, putting it simply, right? And these are the commands that will help you do that, which we'll discuss subsequently. So once you have Git installed, I also want to believe that everybody has done this anyway. You need to give Git like a username and an email to use. So again, when you're working with Git and, for instance, you want to save a commit, so like I said, a commit is just like saving your projects at that point in time. Git will take note of the time you saved it. Git will also take note of the name of the person that saved it. And Git will take note of the email of the person that saved it. So if you've not added, for instance, your username and your email, right, Git will not be able to like add all those details. So it's important that you configure your Git to do this. Again, I want to believe that everybody really has done this. right? Have you all done this? I don't want to do it again because I have it on my laptop, but basically, if I do it, I really can do it again. I say git config, sorry, without the, so git config global, and then I pass in my name. Then if you run that, it saves. Then you do, sorry, there should be a name. Okay, I should have said this. I should use this way, yeah. Okay, but I need to anyway. Git config global user.name, and then I save the name like so, and then I do the same thing for email. So I do email, and I pass my email, whatever email it is. So at gmail.com. Then you do this. Now, once you've done this, the next thing actually I like people to do is that you connect your Git with your GitHub. Now, like I mentioned, when you're using Git, you want to always try to push your files to a remote server or to GitHub. And the way you do that is that you use Git push. We'll talk about that again. But if you do Git push without configuring Git your GitHub, Git will never know where to push it. It won't know the accounts to use, right? So there's something called SSH. You need to have like an SSH key and all that to authenticate Git that, oh, Git, whenever I say Git push, this is the GitHub account to push to whenever I use Git push. So this is again the link to do that. Let's see. So again, I want to believe that we all have done this, but yeah, you have your SSH key, you generate new key, and it's just a simple process. Open terminal, you type in this command. When you're done, it generates a new key. Then you enter the file, you press enter really. It will ask for a password. Again, this password is the password you use whenever I do Git push, because it's like whatever I do to your Git can affect your GitHub. So you don't want to, Git does not want anybody to just do Git push on a laptop, right? So you need like a passphrase to use anytime you use Git push. Then save that, and then it generates a config, this kind of file for you, right? And then once it generates it, you copy it, and then you add it to your GitHub profile. I'm just scanning through because I believe we all know this, but once you go to GitHub like this, you come to settings, you come to SSH, and then you add it. So this is a key I've added since October 15th, and then I can add more and all that, right? So this is very critical. You need to know how you need to get this done. Yep. So let's move on. So yeah, the next thing now is to work with Git repositories. Now, like I mentioned, repositories or repo for short are files, or they are projects, like project folders, right? So if I have a project, for instance, the first thing I want to do is to create a repo for it. Now to create a repo, I do git init. So I do git init. Now I can put dots if I want to. But the first thing actually is that I want to go to a particular folder. I don't want to, this is like my home directory. I don't want to do it here. So let me create a new folder. I'll call it Migdar, and let me just call that git tutorial. Git tutorial. Now I've created a new folder. If I do ls, these are the folders I have currently, but I'm going to go to.
Yeah, David.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know if everyone understands the batch language yet, so I think maybe you should just tell them what's like the make directory now.
Okay.
So I don't know if everyone understands terminal language yet. So maybe, but just don't go into it. Like, just explain this is a terminal language. So
okay.
Although we are still going to have a class on that. So.
Okay, okay, that's important. Actually, yeah, I get it. It's been a little bit difficult to be coming to my folder, to my finder here to create, but what I just did literally was to create a new folder, right? It's just the normal thing we know how to do. Where is that save? Guess it's this place, yeah? No, yeah. So I just created a new folder. That's exactly what I just did right now. So that's mkdir. That's create a new folder. Let me find it. I called it Git tutorial. So yeah, this is it. You can see I created a new folder by this time, and it's empty. So yeah, that is this. Exactly like you said, that's a bash command. It's called make directory, mkdir. And then the first thing to pass is the name of the folder. Directory is like a folder, right? And then this pass the name of the folder. CD is like you're moving, right? You're moving to a directory, right? So CD means, oh, you want to move away from this place to somewhere else, right? And then where are you moving to? You're moving to Git tutorial, which I just created. So if you notice before, okay, I cannot see it, but before I was not in Git tutorial. I was my home directory, but right now I'm in Git tutorial. So I press ls. Ls means list all the files in this directory. I click ls, you can see nothing appeared because I am in a brand new folder, right? So yeah, I want to use Git in this fresh folder. This is where I want to use Git. Like I said, the first command to start any Git project is git init. This means initialize a Git repository. So you can see it's initialize empty Git repository in this part. And what you notice now, before I pressed ls and nothing, right? But there's actually an hidden folder right now. So if I press ls and I use this this thing, you realize that I have some hidden folders right now. You can see I have a .git folder. Now this .git folder is GitHub's folder, or is Git folder that helps you track your file. You don't need to touch it. You need to know what is inside. Don't tamper with it, really. You understand? This is Git's thing, right? Once you have Git installed, or once you've initialized a Git repository, this .git folder would appear. If I go to any random folder, it will not appear, right? And if I try to use any Git command inside the random folder, it will not work because there is no .git inside it. So the first thing you need to do when working with Git is that you need to like initialize a repository. Now, of course, there are times when you're not starting repository from scratch. You are going to use someone else's repository, right? And in that case, you use git clone. So let's say, I don't even know what's, okay, let's see onto Whisper. So if I want to work with this repository, for instance, I come here to code, I copy the SSH link like this, and then I come over and say git clone home. Right? And it clones it. So it's asking me for my password. So if I type in my password, it clones it. So you can see this. Remember, this is what I add as my project, right? Look at as the Whisper project. This is everything the Whisper project. Now, if I go back, okay, I think I'm not using full screen anymore. So if I go back and press ls, you can see I have Whisper. If I go into Whisper, CD Whisper, and I press ls, you realize that I have all the files in all the files, right? All the files. You have it here. I have it inside my PC, and then I can like work with whatever they are doing. So there are two ways to start a Git project on your PC. The first one is when you're starting from scratch, you use Git init, and when you're using a project already on GitHub, you use git clone. You pass in the link, and then it works with that. But let me delete. Let me just delete this folder because I really do not want to. I do not want to use this. Cool. So ls again. Okay, I have to get out of it because yep, I have to get out of it. Okay, and then let me go back into Git tutorial, right? So yeah, I'm inside Git tutorial again, and you can see there's nothing there. So that's how it works. Well, let me do ls a. Yeah, I still have Git, which is whatever. So like I mentioned, this .git means that okay, whatever you do inside this folder, Git would keep track of it. So guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer. So yeah, So the next thing is that you need to know is Git status. Now,
Excuse, I have one question,
okay,
please.
sure, go on.
Okay, I want to understand, which command can you use to run Git? Can you use the command prompt, like in the Windows system? Can you use the command prompt?
I personally, I don't think so. It's actually not even a good advice. So I think you can download Git and use a command prompt, but it's better use Git Bash, right? Git Bash is what most people use with Git Bash. This is what you need to download, right? Is this it? I guess this is it. Yeah. So you download it and you use it. So what Git Bash does is that it downloads Git for you and it allows you to use Git as if you're using the terminal here on the MacBook. Do you understand? So yes, you can use command prompt. You can use your command prompt, but I think it's better use Git Bash. So Git Bash is just like a command prompt, really. It's a terminal as well, right? But it installs Git for you, and then it allows you to use Git on the terminal. I hope that answered your question.
You can clone the repository and do the init on it, and everything works fine.
Yeah, I guess if you have Git installed, it will work. But like I mentioned, I don't think it's a good idea to just use Git within your command prompt. It is much better that you use Git Bash. So once you use Git Bash, you can work the way I'm working. Git Bash is just like, of course, a Bash terminal, and then it allows you to use the terminal. So I think on Windows, funny thing, I think on Windows, for this make that or CD I'm doing may not work on command prompt. I think command prompt has its own command sort of. But if you use Bash, all this will work. So yeah, it's kind of just a way of ensuring that we're on the same page. Do you understand? So if you don't have Git Bash, try to download Git Bash, and I think someone is raising up the hands or something.
Okay, yeah, I think it's probably like the best way to download Git Bash, even on Windows. So when using it, it will be easier for you to understand the particular aspect of things you want to do easily. But then you can probably use Git from your command line, but you still have to maybe for instance now you are using VS Code to code, and you want to push a particular code from your code base from your local machine to your GitHub. So easily you can use, but then you need to have the Git Bash on your system. So if you don't, it can't align with the GitHub. So just like the interface, the middle brand between GitHub and your local machine.
Perfect. Exactly. So just try to get it up and running. You have to ensure it's up and running first before you do any other thing. So guys, if you have any other question, I see you were raising up your hand before Kennedy, but I didn't see it because I was not here. So you can just unmute yourself and talk. I guess it's okay to interrupt.
Yeah, I was going to ask for the.
Yeah. That was what I was saying. Like you were raising up your hands before. I didn't know that you were raising up your hands. So it's okay to.
Okay. A question I want to ask is, can you work without the internet on the Git Bash, just like VS Code and all of that?
So I'm very sure that with Git push you may not be able to do that because Git push will require you to send to a remote server.
With Git push, you can be able to push. You have to connect to the internet for you push.
Yeah, but I think
I'm a little bit familiar with this web terminal, so because of ALX, so that's why I'm asking you this question because I want to have easier way to push and all of that because sometimes from piece of network, you have to refresh your
understand
webcam and all of that. Yeah, so that's why I'm asking these questions.
Well, to be honest, right, I'm not so sure because I've not tried it, but I think it should work because with Git, you're still working with your laptop. You're working within your local machine. I'm not sure, but you can try it out. Do you understand? I've not tried using Git without the internet.
I don't think that's possible. Because the essence of Git is actually like you want to communicate with your GitHub. So that's when Git comes in. It's just like you want to put a particular code base to GitHub, so for you to be able to access it, or maybe you are collaborating with someone and you want to let them be able to clone your pull your code. So basically, there's no how you can actually communicate. And for what he's saying now, maybe for instance you're using VS Code now and you want to push from VS Code to your GitHub. Yeah, it's possible, but then you need the internet. So it's just like the connection between that. So you need internet also.
Yeah, so just try to get a good internet connection. I understand, but yeah, it's like the very basic of what you can do. Whatever you're doing, you require internet at some point, to be honest. Right. Okay, so I guess we can make progress. Yeah, so let me do Git status. So yeah, so like I mentioned, Git status will check what exactly is going on within your staging area. That's where I put it. So you realize that my definitions here are kind of seamless. I try to simplify these things. I don't like to use variable buzzwords, but I've discussed what staging area is, right? So to check what's going on inside your staging area, just use Git status. So Git status will say, okay, if for instance I add a file, Git status will tell me whether I need to add this file to my staging area or okay, it's in my staging area. If it's in my staging area, the kind of what changes have happened to this file. So it's a little bit vague now, but when we start adding files, you understand what Git status will do better. So the next thing you want to do, of course, at some point you start to add files to your repository, right? So what you use to add files to okay, no, this is not actually add files to your repository. This will add files to your staging area, right? Of course, if I want to add files to my repository, if I don't use funny thing is I even know how to use this without send some like hard file. Wow. I'm not so sure how to add a file without terminal. Interesting. Okay, well, so let me just use terminal anyway. So to add a file with terminal, use touch. That's the command to use with to add a file in terminal. So that means create a new file basically. So if I want to create a new file, let's say I started working and the first file I want to create, let's call it main.py because it's just for anything. Right? So I've created this main.py file. So if I come back here, you realize that there's a main.py file created, right? Now, if I try to do git status again, what does it say? Before, check what it said. It said no commit yet, and then there's nothing to commit, nothing at all. But right now it's saying, okay, no commit yet. I've not done any commit, fine. But there's an untracked file. It's telling us that, oh, guys, inside your git file, you've created a file, right? It's called main.py, and that main.py is not in my staging area. Remember I said that Git will not track any file until you explicitly tell it to do it, right? So yes, on my local machine there's a main.py file, but it's just telling you that, guys, this main.py file is not inside the staging area, or I'm not tracking it yet, right? So now the next thing really is now to add it, right? So if you want to add that file, to the staging area, remember the staging area is just the place where Git starts to track your files. So don't get confused by all these big words. So if I want to add the file, I'll say git add main.py. I'm sorry, my main.py. Nothing happens, but if I say git status again, look at what it says. Now it's green. It's not telling me that it's an untracked file. It's just telling me that, oh, this is the file in the staging area. Right, this file is in the staging area, but it has not been committed. We've not spoken about commit yet, but just don't worry about that. But before, the file was red, telling me that this file is untracked, but right now the file is green, telling me that this file is tracked. It means that whatever I do to this file, Git knows it. Git is aware. Clearly, Git is aware, right? So let me just do something to the file. I'm going to use Nano. Now I'm sorry if you don't know much about like a text editor or something, but Nano is a very popular text editor. I think really at some point you need to like know how these text editors work, because I think Git itself uses Vim for some of its commands. So if you don't know how text editors work, you may not be able to like work very well with Git. So please, guys, try to learn about bash, shell commands, and all these things. Right, so I'm going to use Nano. Nano is just a text editor tool that allows me, check what's in my file, edit my file, and all that. Right, so I say nano main.py. It opens this. So like I said, the file was empty. If I open this file with Tony is just a very weird. Don't mind me. This is like very stale, but you can see there's nothing in the file, right? But let me now come over to my Nano and say something like, just type anything. This is not a Python command, but let me just say hello world or something just for it. So with Nano, I do Control X, I do Y to save it, and I press enter. Right, now that file is saved. So if I come to Tony again, or I open that file again, you realize there's now hello world there, what I did in Nano. So I just basically did that, right? So now if I type git status again, it's telling me that, okay, this file is in the staging area. That's good. But there's something you've done to the file that is not in the staging area yet. You understand? So this file is in the staging area, but you've done something to the file. This file has been modified, and that modification would not reflect in the staging area until I add it. Does it make sense, guys? All right, I guess it does. So now let's do git add. So I say git add again, main.py. It goes to my staging area. If I do git status, you can see nothing to commit yet. So everything is fine, no issues, everything is good. So now, I think, let me follow my slides. Okay, interestingly, I've not used commit yet. I used commit in the next slide. Oh, okay. Okay, once again, let me add something to my file because I want to explain git diff. Now, git diff does shows you the difference between your working directory and the staging area. That is what git diff says. So remember the first time where I modified my file, it just told me that this file has been modified. It didn't tell me what exactly was modified, right? So now let me open Nano again. Let me open Nano main.py. Let me now add the second line. This is the second line. I save it. Right, it's saved. If I do git status again, it tells me the file has modified again, which is normal. But now, what exactly has modified? If you want to see the difference, there are times when you want to see the difference between what you have done to your file and what is in the staging area. What you do is git diff, right? And you can see it tells me that this is just telling me that there's when you see minus, it means it has been removed. When you see plus, it has been added. So you can see that there's a plus sign saying that this line is plus, and then this line has been added, right? So this is also helpful for you. Yeah, there are also times you want to remove files from the staging area. So let's say I don't want Git to track this file again, or I made a mistake. So there are times when you don't want to put some files in the staging area. And then I think we'll talk about that going forward anyway. But yeah, there are times when you don't want to put all your files in the staging area. Meanwhile, there's an easy way to add all files to the staging area. Let's say you've created multiple files, you're working in a very large project, and you want to add all the files to the staging area. What to do is git add docs, right? Docs means all files within this directory added to my staging area, right? So if I do this, it's going to work. But unfortunately, I still just have one file in this directory. So if I had created like more files, so let's say I create let's just say I create first file .txt, then we create second file .txt, right? If I do git status, you can see that these are not tracked. So there are two ways to it. Is either I do git add first file, enter, and I change it again and write git add second file, enter, and that works. That adds both of them. Or I can just, if I have a lot of files, it makes sense to start adding all the files individually. I can just say git add dots, and then that adds all the files to the staging area. So if I come again and type git status, realize that all files has been added to the staging area, as you can see. Yeah, but I was mentioning that there are times when you don't want to add some files to the staging area. So if you've added a file to the staging area and you want to unstage it, so you want to remove it from the staging area, the command used is git rm, git remove. Cache just means that, you just keep it somewhere in case I may need to get it back, you understand? Just good practice. And then the name of the file name. So let's say the second file was a mistake. I shouldn't have added the second file to the staging area. And I do git remove, cache, and then the file name. Then just remove that. So if I say git status again, realize that these two are still in the staging area while this particular file is out of the staging area. I hope it makes sense. I think I'm sorry if there's a noise in the background. I apologize. So yeah, I've mentioned how to use git add, git status, git diff, right? So now let's see what we've got. Okay, so if you want to remove all files, you just do git remove this. I think I can share this slide in case you guys want to see this command. But I tell people, right, you don't need to necessarily like want to cram this command, right? You're not in an exam when you're a programmer. You're not in an exam. It's okay to use Google, right? Stack Overflow should be your best friend. Right now we even have ChatGPT, so you can you can just ChatGPT, right? So, but seriously, you don't need to like learn and try to cram all these commands, right? They are all on the internet, and nobody will really want you to. Of course, you need to know the basics. There's no how you should not know git init, git status, git add, those things, git commit. But for maybe other complex codes, you just know what it does. So whenever I want to do it, you know what to search for. Let's move fast now. So now let's work with commits. So I mentioned earlier that commits create a snapshot of your working directory, and not actually, it should be of your staging area. So you want to make that perfect of the staging area, not your working directory. Git doesn't have access to your working directory until you add it to your staging area. So yeah, so that is what commit does, right? And the command to commit is to do commit really is to do git commit. Now, git commit is one thing that requires a particular argument. And that argument is called message. You put this -m. It means say a message. Now it means that when you're committing, you can't just do a git commit and go. You must put a message, and it's important because the message would describe what you have done thus far, right? That is what git commit is about. When you're using git commit, if I don't put any message, it's going to definitely throw an error. It's telling me to write a message. This is Vim, by the way, so let me just get out of this. WQ out. But yeah, the point is that you need to put a message. So if you don't put a message, you can see it told me to type in the message myself. But instead of going inside the a text editor, I can just do git message with this m flag, right? M flag means message, and then put the message. So let me say added the first two files. Now it's very important that you add descriptive things for this message, because there are times when you want to go back into a commit, and then if you don't know what exactly that commit what the commit was doing, it's difficult for you to go back. So git commit message, and then the message you want to add. So if I do this, it has created a commit. So whatever happens, I can always go back to this point. So if maybe you're being excited and you just did nonsense, you added to a local repository, you cloned it, you just did everything, you scattered the file, you don't know what else to do. If you don't know the way forward, at least know your way backward. So I was still going to talk about like best practices, but I think it's about to talk about it here. It's good to have commits as often as you can, especially when you think you've done like a major milestone, because it's like a saving point. You know, when you're playing a game and then you say, I forgot, it's been long I played games, but yeah, when you play games and you see all these like Mortal Kombat or something, and then get to a point you know that even if you die, you're not going to start from the beginning, you're going to start from a particular point in the game. That is what git commit helps you do, right? It saves that point. It's like a snapshot. It saves it for you, and then that means that you can always go back to it if you are stuck or you want to go back. Yeah, so the next thing that is critical for us to discuss is git log. So git log does shows you all the commits you have done, right? So if I do git log, it shows me all the commits I've done. Interestingly, I've only done one commit here, and that commit happened, of course, today, 8:50, and then this is the commit message, right? This is the commit message. And this is what I was mentioning. So Git will require that it puts your name and email for every commit. So of course, if you're working with people, you want to know who did a commit. You should not be someone you just see a commit, you don't know who did it. That will not be good. So you need to like configure your name and email when working with Git. So Git said, oh, this is the guy that did the commit, and this is his email in case you want to arrest him. I'm joking anyway. So yeah, that is git log. There are times when you just want to have a short form of this commit. You don't want to have this kind of very lengthy thing, right? You just want to have a short commit. that gives you the basic thing. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is called the hash number, right? Or the git hash. And this is like an ID when you put it simply, like this is an ID. So if I want to go back to this commit, I'll use this ID to go back to it, right? So this is something you should also take note of. So I was saying that there are times when you want to have, for instance, if you have multiple commits, this code will be very, very long. So it will fill up your entire page and sometimes difficult to work with. So there's a shorter version of git log, and just you adding this flag. So I say git log one line, right? If I put this one line flag, or this one line an argument rather, it's now print a commit in a one line. You can see it print the same commits in just one line. And then you guys may ask, what happened? Look at the hash, this thing is very long here. This one is short. Well, the thing is this, you can either use this or use this. It will still work. So if I want to go back to a commit, I can add this hash number or I can add this. Both of them works. Right? Again, let me know if you guys have any question. So yeah, you can actually change the commit name. So let's say, let me just add more file. Okay, I added this. Okay, so let's say git status again. Okay, now let me add this second file to it. So git add second file, and then let me now add this file, commit this file. So git commits, output the message, and then let's say added, or let's say this is the second commit, just this is the second commit. Of course, when you're working with real projects, you should talk about what you have done. So let's say you fixed the bug, you can say fixed this bug. Or let's say you removed some redundant code, you say you've removed the redundant code, let it be very descriptive. So I press enter, it tells me, oh, you've done this, you've added one file. In that file, of course, it's empty. I had nothing in the file, so you had 0 insertions, 0 deletions, but I've added one file. That is what Git says. So if I say git log again, let's say git log one line, because I don't want the long one. So you can see it gives me this, the first commit, this is second commit. And now what do you notice? There's this thing called head, right? Or they call it head really. So the head is the point where Git is working. So whenever you add a new commit, the head moves to the latest commit, right? So Git always work with the latest commit except to like change it. But really it's not good to work with detached head, right? I think we will talk about detached head later, but it's always good to have your head at the tip of the commit you're working with, right? Or your latest commit, right? So I was going to talk about git amend, right? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so let's use the git amend. Let's assume I made a mistake, right? I made a mistake when I commit name. That things where you just make mistakes and you don't want everybody to see your mistake. You need to cover it up very quickly. You can actually edit your commit name. So what you use is this amend flag, right? Say git amend. Oh, sorry, requires 2 dashes. And amend. Yeah, it takes me to Vim. It can take you to any other text editor. This is really just like any text editor you have, right? So, I don't know, but I think Git on Mac works with Vim. So to some extent, you should know how Vim works. So if I want to edit a Vim text, I use I press I. That's the first thing I press. I means, okay, now I can insert something, right? So you can see this is the second commit. This is the commits I had before, right? It tells me, please enter the commit message for changes. Line starting with hash will be ignored. So all these are like comments. It won't be added to the comments. This is only what we added to the comments. So let's say I want to change this to something else. Let's say I want to change this to second commit. Not this is the second commit. I want to change the commit. I put this right and put a space there, and then I'm still in insert mode. So to get out of insert mode, I press escape. Right, and to save this file, I press column W key. W key means I've written something. Q means I'm trying to quit. I press enter, it has done that. So now let's press git log one line again. You realize that the second commit, which was this before, has now been changed to this. Now what do you notice? When I use git commit amend, it only focused on this last commit. There was no possibility of changing this particular one, right? So that's one thing you should note. When you use git amend, you can only edit the last commit. You cannot edit previous commits, right? There are other ways to edit previous commits, which is a little complex, but we'll discuss hopefully before this class rounds up. Yep. Okay, yeah. Okay, I mentioned I shouldn't talk about this one. Yeah, I'll talk about this, but not yet. I think it should not be, yeah, because I've not talked about branches yet. I think branches will be my next thing. But yeah, let's look at this. Git restore. Now, Git restore takes a file back to the state before the last commit. So now let's do something interesting. Let's go back to first. Let's do ls. We have 3 files: first file, second file. Remember, these files are empty, right? Let me show you that they are empty. Open first file, absolutely empty. Okay, let me use text editor to even do it. Let's just say this is an example. So I'm adding something to my first file. But let me say this is a mistake, just because that's the point I want to make. So I've added this to my file. So if I do cat means concatenate, it means print what is inside this file. So if I say cat first file, you can see this is a mistake, it shows, right? Now if I do git status will tell us that I've modified this first file, right? I've modified this first file. Now if for any reason I realize that I have made a mistake, or that modification I made is breaking my code, let me just go back. I want this file to be back in the stage it was before. Do you understand? So you had the code, you had the commit, everything was working fine when you committed it, but you now did some edits to a file, and you realize that edit you did has messed up your file, your code is no longer running. The least thing you can do at least is to go back to your last commit, right? But you just want to work with that file. You don't want to go back to your last commit for everything. You only want to go back to your last commit for that file, right? What you use is git restore, right? Git restore says, guys, take me back to where this file was in the last commit, right? I've made a mistake, I want to go back. Just take me back to the state at which this file was in last commit. So let's do that. So let's say git restore. Git restore, what's the name of this file? First file, right? If I do that, let's now check what first file is. You can see it's empty. So you remember before I added this, the first file was empty, right? And so it is back there again in that state. It's empty, just like it was in the first commit. So these are things that it's important that you learn, so that when you're working with files, there are times when you're working with the main file and people are working and you don't want to mess things up, right? You've done some things that you think, no, you've broken this code. Just go back to the state at which it was, in the last commit. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Now let's talk about something really interesting. That's Git branches. Now, ideally, okay, let me explain what Git branches are. So branches are like parallel file systems. So when you're working in the code, there's what they call a main branch. All repository has the main branch, but you do not want to work inside the main branch, because if for instance I am the owner of the code and I have a couple of people working down, let's say Fem is working in that same code, and Jide is also working in that code, right? Those two guys are working in that code, and let me look for Fem anyway as well. I can't think of any right now. It's only is working in that code. Yeah, so let's say 3 of them are working in that code, right? And Jide is making some changes, Femi is making some changes, Zidu is making some changes, right? If everybody is working with the main branch, at the point when we want to match, there could be problem. So maybe Jide added, let me look for something. What happened? Oh, my system went to dark mode. Okay, that's shocking. Okay, let's say Jide added name is equals to Jide, for instance, and that is what it should be. Name is equals to Jide, but it's not as come and added name is equals to Ituno. Now that means that there will be a conflict if you guys want to match the code, right? And that will cause a problem. So ideally, you should create a branch.
Sorry, David.
Yeah, sure.
I think someone asked a question in the chat.
Oh, sure, yeah. I think you can interrupt me, please. Yeah. Let's see.
I think Rose actually asked a question.
Okay. You say, where are the files found after catching? Okay, I'm not so sure about this, but I think it's to be stored in the hidden folder. I mentioned that once you have initialized the GitHub repository, they are always, Git has like a .git, right? I mentioned that. So if I say, let's go back to our terminal, I say git, ls, ls shows me the files, right? If I do ls all, it shows me the hidden files. Typed earlier, ls all, it shows me the hidden file. So all this, anything that starts with dots is an hidden file, right? So I'm guessing that is, like I mentioned, this hidden file, this .git is Git thing. I don't want to care about it really. It's a .git thing. So that cache is Git file system. It's Git that handle the cache. You're not the one handling it. So it's just a way of making sure your code is faster. So like I mentioned, if you're when did you even use that cache thing? So let me remember when we used it. Yeah, I think if you're restoring, right? I think if you're deleting a particular, what now? Is it a commit or something? But cache is just a way of making things faster, right? So if you use a cache, it means that if, for instance, you want to get that file back, it's not going to download the file again from the beginning. It has a temporary version of that file. So it's not going to take the file back. Do you understand? So all this will be Git kind of thing. It's not something you see. It's not like there's a cache file you will see here. No, these are just your files. But I'm sure that there are things that Git has handled in all these hidden files, if it makes sense. So now let's go to the second question. So describe the nature of Git messaging. Describe what has been. Describe changes. Yeah, you should describe the changes you have made. Actually, you should describe the changes you have made, because, like I said, you'll be working with different people, and you would, definitely at some point need to explain. Oh, this is this commit. This is what this commit has done. So really, you should just be descriptive. You should explain what has changed from what it was to what you are pushing, right? So yeah, you should describe what has changed. So let's press ahead. So yeah, I was saying a branch is like a parallel, file system in Git. So there's a main branch, and then you can have other branches. Now, whatever changes you're doing, it is always good practice to change within a branch. Do not, right? I repeat, do not work with the main branch. It is wrong practice. Do not work with the main branch. Always work with other branches. Now the next thing is, how do you create other branches? So you simply just use this Git branch and then the new branch name. So let's do that. So yeah, this is my main branch, remember. So if you want to see the list of branches, you use Git branch. So you see I have main branch, and this is where the head of Git is, right? Is in my main branch. And let's create another branch. I use Git branch, and then the next thing will be the name of the branch. So let's create what can we use to create this branch now? Let's just say
Techstars.
Techstars, yeah, Techstars branch, something like that. But let's say Techstars. Let's not make it complicated. Am I correct with the spelling? Yep, I think this is correct.
No, stars.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So if I do this, it will create another branch, right? So let's do that. Nothing happens, but if I go back and type Git branch, watch. It has created another branch called Techstars branch. Now, funny thing is this. Okay, now let's go into the branch, because right now the head is still inside the main branch, right? So like I said, we want to always work inside other branches, not the main branch. So now let's go inside the main inside the other branch. Now, to go inside another branch, you use Git branch. Use Git checkouts rather. Git checkouts. And then the branch name. So the branch name in this case is Techstars. That's where we are. Okay. And then if I press, you can see it has gone to the second branch, Techstars. Now let's confirm that again with Git branch. You can see the head is now in Techstars. Now let's see what's in Techstars. You realize that what Git has done is that, because I started from the main branch. Once you create a new branch, Git like replicates the main branch in the new branch. Do you understand? That's what Git does. It goes to the main branch. Whatever is in the main branch, he puts it to the new branch you have created. So the idea is that he wants you to start adding from where the main branch stopped. So if I want to do anything now, I can start from the main branch. The idea is the reason for this is that so that when you want to merge eventually, there won't be conflicts, which again we may discuss later in this training. So yeah, we have worked with Techstars. Now let's say Techstars has asked us that we should add another file. Let's say welcome to Techstars training, right? Let's call it that file. So now that is the work they've given me for this week. They said, David, your assignment for this week is to add a feature in our code base that prints the, I'm just joking. It's a very simple feature. The feature is print welcome to Techstars training, right? So now let's do that. So to do that, I use touch, right? Touch means create a new file. Let's call that file welcome.py. Sorry, touch welcome.py. That's when.
Okay, I think someone asked question again in the.
Okay, sure. See, in a case, most of the time, Git is for collaboration. That's the first thing I must say. Git is for collaboration. Now, if you're not collaborating with anybody, well, you don't need to. But there's no how you work with Git. There's really no point working with Git if you're not collaborating. But yeah, if you're working on a single, I think you can do that actually. So I take back my last statement. You can actually work with Git while you don't want to collaborate. Yeah, and their personal project and all that stuff. Yeah, so basically, well, if you're not working with people, you can use your main branch. Do you understand? Perfectly. Use your main branch if you're not working with people. Do you understand? This is when you're working with people.
I think it's just basically like a remote stuff. Maybe for instance, you're not with your laptop and you need to access a particular code. You can do that wherever you are.
Yeah, do you get? So it's just good idea really to work with other branches. But yeah, it's not like compulsory. It's not compulsory at all. It's not compulsory. Okay, so I created a new file, welcome.py. Now let's edit the file. So my guy said I should not use, let me use it, nano welcome.py. So nano means, okay, text editor, what do you want to do? Let's say print welcome to Techstars training. Okay, now this is the work for the week. I've done it. So let me save it. I press Ctrl X, I press Y, I press Enter. Saved. So let me check the content of welcome.py. You can see it does that, right? Or if you want to use this, where's that now? Welcome.py. You can see it does that. Welcome to Techstars training. Perfect. Let me check again what I was trying to explain. Okay, I think I was trying to explain. Okay, working with branches really. Okay, so basically, I can do any other thing. All other things I'll be doing on that main branch. I can do it here. So let's say I want to. Of course, if I start with Git status, you realize that to tell me this new file is not yet tracked. So it's telling me you added as a file that's not tracked, right? So now let me add this file to the staging area. I do git add welcome.py. That is the staging area. Let's do git status. There's no point doing this, but let me just do git status tells, oh, you've added this file, which is what I was confirmed. So let's do git commits. Added the welcome message, right? That's a nice commit to use. It tells me I've done that, and then what I want to do now, I'm having a couple of WhatsApp messages. Okay, so for I was having, pause this. I just want to reply to a message at some point. I'll need to like pause and just check my WhatsApp. Sorry about that. But yeah, git commit, and then come on, let me confirm where I am again. Okay, I think everything is good now, right? I've committed it. So now let's say git log online. What do you see? It has 3 commits now. It has this, it has this, it has this. Right? This is in this branch. Remember, this is in the Techstars branch, not the main branch. Now you can always go back to the main branch. All you just do is git checkout main. It goes to the main branch. Now, if I check git log one line, realize that this particular commit, this welcome message commit, is not there. Do you understand? This commit is not there. We can also discuss how to merge it going forward. But yeah, this commit is not there yet. So basically, like I said, a branch now allows you to work independently of the main branch. And then when you're ready to push your commits, we call it pull request and all that. We'll discuss it. Yeah, so I think that is good. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so we can create more branches and then we can list all our branches. So let's say we want to just create more branches too. So git checkout let's call it Techstars2. Let me say second. Techstars second. Oh, I've not created a branch. Okay, now let me just give another shortcut to create a branch. So, like I said, the first thing when you're creating a branch, this is the, let me find it here. Can I? Okay, so the first thing you do is git branch, the name of the branch. Then the second thing is git checkouts, then the name of the branch. But there's a shorter way to do it. The shorter way is just do git checkout. So you don't do git branch first. You do git checkout straight up. You put this B flag. This big flag says it's a new branch, so don't think it's a branch that was existing already, right? So you put this B flag and say Techstars second. So you see, it didn't give me the error message it gave me the first time. The first time it was like, wait, guy, you've not created this branch. Why are you checking out to it? Right. But with this second one, once you've added this B flag, it tells, oh, guy, calm down. This is a new flag. This is a new branch. Just create it for me and switch. So it does like 2 steps in one, right? So now I'm in the this new branch. So I do ls. So I do git branch. You will see all the branches I have created, and then I am in this one. Right. So I believe we kind of understand how branches work and how to work with branches.
I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, please. If you have any question, please.
So.
Try to look for Git push. I didn't add it to my presentation. That's very interesting. Okay, if anybody has any question, please go on. Does anybody have any question?
Please, we can just unmute ourselves and just ask the question directly. So this class can be interesting as we move on. But then if there is no question yet or the inspiration has not come, we can continue. So, right. Okay, David, I just want to ask again, is our recording going smoothly?
Yeah, it is, but I'm surprised because this has been going for over an hour now, and I don't have a lot of space on my PC. So at some point, I think it will end. But for now, it's going smoothly.
Oh, let's just if anything, just let me know. So
yeah. You can also keep track of this symbol.
If anyone can actually record, please, you can do that. Thank you.
It's okay. So now I was going to talk about git push. Funny enough, git push was not in my slide. I find that really interesting. So I mentioned that, let me go back to that slide, that there are 3 stages. Your working directory, your staging area, your commit history, which is git log, and then your repository. Now, funny enough, I've been working with these 3. I've not worked with this. Now, when you want to work with this, you have to first create the repository. So I've created a repo here, but it's not yet in my GitHub. So like I said, GitHub is what I want to use as our hosting service. So let's just quickly go to GitHub. Let's create a new repo. Let's just create a Techstars or something like that. Techstars Git, something like that. This is not necessary. You want to make it public. README is just okay. We want to add a README file to explain what this repo is about. A git ignore is okay. So let me just talk about this right now. A git ignore is, of course, okay. Look at the definition. It tells you git don't track this thing. So like I mentioned, there are times when you don't want to track some files, right? And if you use git add dots, git will just add all the files to the staging area. And there are times you don't want it. So there are times when we're working with so maybe password, for instance, and you don't want to add your password to your GitHub. You understand? There are times when you're working with keys, public keys, SSH keys, all those things. You don't want to add those kind of files to your GitHub. So if you do git dots and git add dots, it's just add everything to Git. So it's important that you do not add all these files to your GitHub. So when you use this, it just tells you, okay, create a git ignore file. So you just add the parts where you don't want Git to touch, irrespective of whether you use git add dots. Right, but for now we don't need it, so leave it that way. License also, no license, but you can put Creative Commons or you can put MIT license. Well, I don't need it, don't worry. It's just so create a repo. So this repo, sweet, perfect. Of course, if you've not set up your Git to your GitHub, the SSH thing I mentioned earlier, this thing, you need to do it, right? But me, I've done it, so I'll skip this part. Now, there are 2 things involved. Now, if I want to create a new repo and all that, this is the command I'll use: git init, git add, all these things. But I've already done that already. All I need to do is just to push it to GitHub. So I'm going to focus on the second part. So now the first thing I want to do is to add these Git to my repo, right? So I'm just going to copy this command. Let's copy the command really. Copy this command, paste it. Good. Let's go back there. Copy this. This is like creating a branch in this GitHub, right? Copy it, paste, create the branch, perfect. And lastly, oh, come on, why am I messing this up? Where am I? Okay. Lastly, copy this. This is like pushing. Okay, so git push is just like, okay, guys, you're now going from your local machine to a remote server, or to GitHub in this case. That is what git push does. Origin means it's a remote server, and main means you're pushing it to the main repo, right? So I do copy that and paste that. And then ask my password. Like I mentioned, when you're creating the SSH key, you need to put a password. Sweet. Currently, believe it or not, everything I've done would be in that GitHub repo. So let's confirm that. Let's just refresh this for whatever reason. Boom. So you can see this is my repository, right? I think I actually pushed this text as second, funny enough, but it doesn't matter anyway. Should have gone to my main branch first. Oh yeah, I went to main branch. Good. Did you delete that branch? It's branch, maybe all or something. Yeah, you can see there's a remote branch called origin.main. I'm surprised what happened to this branch. Guess this process deleted it, or maybe because it was the same with the main branch, perhaps it just picked the main branch. So yeah, I've gone back to the main branch apparently, and this is like, these are my local branches. Anyone that starts with remote means it's a remote server. It's a remote branch really, and in this case it's just this GitHub branch, right? It's just a GitHub branch. Yeah. So
I want to ask a question.
Yep.
So basically, it's just like, is there a way to like activate the password part of GitHub whereby you have to put it every time you have to work?
Actually, this first can you try to explain? Is it like when I'm doing git push?
Yeah. Every time you are pushing, you are communicating with GitHub.
Yes.
So, like it's asking for password now.
Yeah.
Then maybe there's something you need to like just add the password permanently to your work.
I personally don't think so. But what I know people do is that they don't put a password. So like I said, when you're like generating a SSH key, they ask for a password. Add your password. So people don't press enter. It means that when you're doing this, you just press enter. Right? But as a rule of thumb, it only asks for a password. So if you don't have any password, just press enter.
But maybe I'm thinking maybe when you're using git clone, possibly at times.
Oh yeah. With git clone, yeah, of course, yeah. With git clone, yes. If you're using git clone, it knows that you're pulling from someone to your place. You're pulling from a remote to your local. But with git push, you're taking from your side up. So it wants to ensure that you are the one doing it. You have the access to do it. But with git clone, yeah, you don't just put git clone and then the name of this, right? The URL of the repo, and that does not require any password. Yes, no, does it? I guess it does. I'm not sure actually, but I think it does. I don't want to clone this to confirm.
It does actually.
Yeah, I know it does, because once you're not working within your repo anymore, it asks for a password, right? And like I said, you can decide to not add any password. That's your prerogative, right? But Git will ask for a password once you're doing anything that involves, when you're also pulling. When you're pulling, okay, I think it's with pulling that does not require a password, which we'll talk about. And the reason why it doesn't require a password is because, okay, I think it's fair enough. Well, let's just talk about git pull. So we've talked about git push, right? Let's talk about git pull. Now, git pull means that you are taking the latest updates. You are taking the latest updates from the remote server. Now, remember, git push means you're taking your update from your own local machine to the remote server. Git pull on the other hand means whatever is in that remote server, just bring it for me. I want it, right? So now let's add some new stuff to this remote server. Let's add a file. Let's just create a new file. Let's call it dot file.txt, something like that. And let's just say this is the third file, right? So this is, now it may not be you doing this, it may be your colleague that has done something to the main repo, or people have worked while you are away, right? So people have done something. So the bottom line is that there's a new updates to the main repo or to your GitHub, right? And you want to work with the latest file. You don't want to work with an obsolete file, right? So it's good practice to actually pull. Pull means Git, whatever is happening to this repo, bring it to me. I want my file to be updated. Now, before I do that, let me just press ls for you so you can see there's no third file, right? This is what we have. There's no third file. So now let's do git pull. Okay, he asked for a password. I think everything asks for a password, really. So he asked for a password. I put it in. And then it tells me that, see guys, I've added a third file now. There's a new file in the repo, and I'm adding it to you. So if I press ls again, you can see this third file has been added. Right. So see guys, believe it or not, this is the fundamental of Git. Like this, by and large, right? This is what you'll be working with. In all honesty, you will not walk past all these things. These things I've discussed: the Git add, Git commit, Git pull, Git push. Git pull is better than Git fetch. I think they work the same way, but people just use Git pull and Git fetch. Then Git checkouts. Then Git merge means okay, you're merging. So I think merge will be the next thing we discuss. Okay, stashes. Okay. Now, okay, Git stash. Now let's talk about Git stash. So let's see where we are. Git branch. Okay, now let's check out the textiles. Git checkout, right? Now, when you are working with two files or two branches, you can just do git checkout hyphen. Hyphen will just take the next branch, right? So instead of typing git checkout this way, git textiles this way, just put this one. You can see it has switched to, okay, wait, git checkout textiles. Okay. So now I'm working with main and textiles. Now let me do git checkout. These are just shortcuts. It's not compulsory to do these things anyway. So you can see it has moved to my main. If I want to move to checkout to textiles, I just use the same command. It has moved to textiles. So yeah. So now I'm in textiles, right? And I think I added a new commit to textiles.
So, sorry, what if you have more than one branch?
If you have more than one branch, it just works with your last two branches. That's it. So so let's say you came from main to your third branch. Right. If you do git checkout hyphen, it goes to your main branch. It skips the second branch. So it just goes to the last branch. It's just like sometimes you want to work with just two branches, right? So it's just like a back and forth thing. Instead of typing the entire branch name and all that, it's just a shortcut. Yep. So yeah, I remember that we added ls. This was my job for the week. They gave me this task. Now I want to prove to my guy that I have done my task for the week. Now what I need to do is to merge it with the main branch. Now, ideally, okay, let's talk about the ideal case. Ideally, you should not merge to your main branch directly, right? It's not good practice. It's not good practice. You want to send a PR, they call it pull request. Then someone reviews your code, check if the code is correct. If you did the right thing, then the person merge. You can only merge within your file system if, like that guy said, you were the only one working on the project. You don't have any collaborator. So you're the alpha and omega of your project. Merge anyhow. Do you understand? But when you are working with maybe people and you're not even like the boss, it's important that you merge using pull request. And let me explain how pull request works. First let me confirm that there's nothing happening. Okay, good. Git start tells me nothing to comment. Good. So what I need to do is again push this particular branch to my remote server. Remember what I had in my remote server is this file, right? The main branch. There's no welcome.py. You can't say welcome.py, which is my own branch, So now let's put welcome.py in the remote server. But again, you don't want to match directly to the main branch. You want to create another branch and send it over, right? So what I will do is git push. Now something interesting will happen. You see what does it say? It says it's fatal. Fatal means there's an error, really. Telling me that, guys, what's going on? There's no textiles branch in the upstream. Upstream is like your remote server. So it's telling me that I only have main branch. Why am I pushing it to? What's going on, guy? So that means that before I can push this to my remote server. I need to first create, the remote. I need to create the remote branch as well, right? And this is the code to create the remote branch. Origin means remote. Textiles means I'm creating this branch. Set upstream means this should be the branch it should push to anytime I use git push. This is like a settings really, but I'm not going to type this because I'm lazy. I'm just going to copy and paste. So copy this, paste this. That's for some code. Boom. I have successfully created a new branch in my remote server and sent in the code I've done, the welcome.py code I've done. I've also sent it to the remote server. Right? So let's confirm that. That's one told me GitHub is really fast, right? I don't even have to refresh the page. There's something happening. Techstars has recently had recent pushes less than a minute ago, right? And now, so I've done this now. Perfect. I'm a good worker. The next thing I need to do is to send a pull request. Now, what Git will do is first compare if there's no conflict. The conflict means that Git is not able to merge. There is a problem. Git cannot merge it. There's something wrong. So maybe in my first file, I created name is equals to, or let's say count is equals to 2, for instance, in my main.py. And someone had changed that count to, let's say, counter is equals to main.2. However, in my own file, I was still using counts, or I changed count to something else basically. If I attempt to merge, Git will not know which is correct. Git will not know if it's the counter that is correct or the count. In that case, there's what they call a conflict. A conflict will happen. And in the conflict, Git will tell you that it's not able to merge. This thing you saw able to merge, there's a conflict. And Git will tell you what is causing the conflict. I wish I can reproduce that, but I don't know how I can. But anyway, Git will tell you there's a conflict and you need to resolve the conflict. Now, Git will never resolve the conflict for you manually, but it can tell you what to do. So you can tell you that you cancel the counter and leave count, or you cancel count and leave counter, right? Then you just manually edit your files to say, okay, this is one you should keep, this one discard, right? So maybe I was the one that was not, in the loop. They said, guy, don't use count anymore, use counter. And me, I was still using count. I can now say git drop count and use counter, right? And then it merges with counter rather than count. I hope I'm not being too abstract, but yeah. In this case, there's no problem. Git can merge. The only thing I added was actually a new file, right? I think there's a way to see what has been added. Okay, it's when I create the pull requests. Okay, yeah, this is it. So you can see one commit in the pull request. This is my welcome page. What file was added? Welcome.py. Contributor is of course me. So this is the file that was added. Welcome.py, right? So everything is good. Git will automatically use your last commit for your PR message, but you can change it to what you want. But I think it is fine. And then I create a pull request. Now, ideally, you are not the one that will work. Like most of the time, you are not the one that will match your pull request yourself. Like I said, you're not the one. Well, you're not the alpha, the omega. You have a boss, or you have someone that will check it. So there's someone that also has access to this particular Git repo. Let's say it's the reviewer. There's something they call reviewer here. You can add a reviewer. Assignee, of course, is me because I'm the one working on it. So let's say a reviewer goes to his laptop. He comes to this particular repo. He goes to my branch, or he sees the pull request anyway from here. So if I come here, you can see that there's one pull request here. He sees that there's a pull request here already. So he comes to pull request. He clicks on it. He checks what I've done. Oh, good guy. He did his code. He added this file, right? Which is what I told him to add, the welcome message. So everything is good, no problems. He will now accept. He will merge this pull request. Ideally, I shouldn't be the one doing it. You can see Git is telling me that normally I should add on a rule that would know for approval.
So is this on my side only, or is some?
What's that?
Like I'm kind of like maybe network or something.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, it's actually the speaker.
Oh, really? There's something wrong with my network?
Yeah, I think it's a network issue.
So what's like? Is it like I'm not clear enough?
Like it's like we are kind of like hearing you twice or something.
Really? That's surprising.
It's still the same like till now.
Has it been since the beginning?
Just a minute ago.
That's super strange. And everybody's mic is muted, right?
Okay, it's okay now.
Oh, it's okay now? Okay, good. That's surprising though. I don't know what could have caused that. But is it fine now? Is it good now?
No, it's still doing the same.
Should I stop this recording? Or maybe, but you cannot do the recording. So should I use my? It cannot be the recording. That's really surprising. Let me turn off my camera. If it helps, does it help? Does it help for no reason? Is it any better?
Okay, yes, it's better now.
Okay, I think it's when I mute myself, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe I'm talking for too much, for too long. Anyways, yeah, so let's go back to what we were discussing. Sorry about that. So, like I said, it's one that actually should merge this PR, but because I'm the alpha and omega of my project, I can just merge. I confirm merge, actually is merging and merge. And really, Git create a commit, right? It creates a commit and merge. So if I come here, you can see that I have welcome.py in my main.py now, which is like I have successfully collaborated. So I worked on my own branch. I did some addition to the code. I sent the code for review. My boss reviewed it and then he merged it to the main branch. So if I come here, let's see where I am, Git branch. Okay, I'm in textiles, so let me take back to the main. So let's say ls. Okay, it's not showing here because I've not pulled the latest, I've not pulled the latest repo from the, repo. That's why it's good that whenever you're working, right, especially with the main, always try to pull from the main before you start your work because some additional stuff may have been done on the main branch. So before you start, try to always like pull to get the main, the latest files, then you can now start working on your own branch. So now let me pull. Boom. And then so if I do ls, you can see that I have welcome.py. So I'm working with the latest branch.
Oh, I think someone is saying they can't see the screen.
Is it because
is anybody having the same issue?
Is it because I'm talking for too long?
No, I don't think it's on your side. And also see your screen.
So I've stopped sharing. I've stopped sharing. Now let me share again. Let me just share the entire screen. How is it?
Yeah, I think it's coming up, or not yet. Okay, it's up now. Okay, can you see the screen now? Can you see? Is it better now? Can you see the screen now?
Can anybody see my screen?
Okay, he said he can now. He said he can.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, let's make progress now. So yeah, what was I? Sometimes I kind of easily lose track of what I was saying. What was I saying? Let me just go to my slide. Okay, yeah, I guess we had talked about the major things in Git, right? Like I said, what we have talked about right from the beginning of this class to now are what we use 80% of the time. 80%. Right. Now, if you've gone to the master level, you now have to do some really cool stuff, right? Now, it's good to know these things. Now, let's talk about Git stash. Now, to explain Git stash, okay, let me say what Git stash is now. Git stash is just a way of temporarily storing changes you do not want to commit. Now, let's say you're working in your branch, you've edited a particular file, but for some reason your boss says, go to the main branch right now and see what I've done, or you need to just leave that branch and go to another branch. But you don't want what you have done to, you don't want to commit, because like before you leave a branch, you have to commit it. If not, it will be lost, right? But you want to keep what you have done temporarily. You don't want to make it as a commit, and you don't want to also lose it, right? So in this kind of case, what you use is Git stash, right? So again, let me explain the use case. The use case is that you have made some changes, right? You don't want to commit it, but like I said, anytime you commit something, you have created a snapshot. Whatever happens, someone can go back to it. So someone will see, let me assume you did rubbish, right? You added some nonsense. You don't want everybody to see it, right? The code is not in the best shape. You don't want everybody to see it. But if you commit it for any reason, it means that people will see what you have done and they can always go back to it, right? But you don't want that to happen. You just want to keep your changes somewhere. Go to the another branch, do some things there, and then come back to your branch. That is when you use git stash. Now let's explain that with some example. Now let's say I want to edit welcome.py. Let's say I've made some changes to welcome.py. Instead of saying welcome to Techstars training, I say welcome to Google training. Very interesting stuff. I save it. So I say cats just to confirm that, yep, welcome to Google training. Now I've done, let me confirm where I am. So let's go to confirm where you are, please. Git branch. Ooh, I was in the main branch. Okay, then we go to the second branch. Git checkout Techstars. That's the problem, you have to type it fully. Yeah, git branch checker. So let me just say git pull. Let me stay with the same states as the main branch, right? So you just a way of experimenting with different things you have learned. Let me say cats welcome.py. You can see welcome to, oh, it doesn't, that's strange. It has actually edited this already to the main branch. Git branch, I mean Techstars, git checkout, nano out welcome.py. That's very interesting. I'm actually not sure why that happened. Or maybe because I guess what happened was Git automatically pulled changes from my main branch, right? So basically, like I said, whenever you're work with another branch, then you can merge with your main branch. So let's just work with another branch. So let's say Git checkout.
Sorry, am I the only one who can see the functions from the PC? Like,
it's too small.
Like no, like it's hanging something.
Wow, is something wrong with my network? Let me change.
Okay.
I kind of just changed. Is it any better?
Yeah, I think. Okay, I think it's probably here now.
Let me also increase this a little.
Okay, is there now? Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think it's back.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm in where? I'm in my Techstars branch, right? Which is where I want to be. Now, let me edit that welcome.py. Let me change this to Microsoft. Welcome to Microsoft training. Microsoft training. I Control X, Control Y, Control. And then, yep, my cats. So let's say git status. It's telling me now that, yeah, you have done something here. All right. So now let's say this was actually a mistake. I didn't mean it. I shouldn't have added my welcome to Microsoft training. It was Techstars training. But yeah, I don't want to lose what I've done. In this case, let's assume I did a lot of mistakes, but I don't want to lose all those things. I just want to keep it somewhere. Now, if I try to do git checkout to me, it worked. Let's do git, let's do nano welcome.py. Something is not supposed to happen here. It is automatically, something is not right. It's automatically taking the updates for me. That's strange. It's kind of merging both. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a new file completely. So let me go to this, or let me even create a new branch. Git checkout branch. Let me call the branch test stash. Don't just test that. Let's say in this new branch, I'm going to add a new file. Let me call it stash.py. Why am I using? Let me nano stash. Basically, guys, don't be too intimidated. These are just let's just say this. I want to save this temporarily. Okay, let's save that. Good. Now, I hope this does not match it to my main branch directly again. So yeah, if I try to do git commit, git checkout, yep, git branch, okay, it has not worked. Anyway, this is my point. I think I've done some settings to my git config. The point is this, right? Maybe you guys can try it on your own PC. I'm sure it's not working. Now, when you have made a new change to a branch and you do not commit it, if you try to check out from that branch, right? If you try to check out from that branch, it will not work. Git will tell you, what should we do with this change you've done? You've not added the change to your stash, to your staging area, and you want to leave. There's no way you can leave. So there are two things you can do. You can either commit it or you stash it, right? Now, by committing, it means you saved it. Now, like I mentioned, you don't want to save that change. You just want to keep it somewhere, right? So what you do really is to stash it. I use git stash for it. So let's confirm again with git git status that we have some differences. Yeah, there's a new stash.py. Yeah, good. So let's say we don't want to lose this file, but we want to leave this place. So I say git stash. It has created, you can see that it has saved this working directory, blah 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 in this. So now I can leave this place. So I can say git checkout. Let's say I go to tech stars. It goes perfectly. And then if I go back to where was I now? If I go back to this particular text stash, this file should not be there because it's the stash, it is somewhere. Do you understand? So let me go back down and show you. So let's say git checkout iPhone is where I'm coming from. So let's say ls. As you would see, this stash.py is there. Let me say git stash list. Git stash list. Yeah, there's a stash here. Okay. Something is not right, but I guess it's like a configuration I've done. Basically, I've played with the configuration file, and so the thing is, there are things you can do. I'm sure that if I were doing this on like a brand new Git account with their Git config, I should not be able to leave a particular. I should not be able to leave a particular branch until I've either committed or stashed it. And the idea of stashing is that you want to ensure that what you have done, it is saved temporarily but not lost. That is really the idea, right? That is really the idea. And when you do git stash, it goes back to where it was before. Let me do cat stash.py. This should not show. It's quite surprising. Should not show until I do git stash pop. Git stash git stash coming, guys. Let me confirm something. Get that add. Git stash. Oh, okay. Git stash pop. Yep. That's something I didn't do. Yeah. Okay. So again, sorry about that. I was just trying to get something clear. So, like I mentioned, right, git stash is a way of saying, Git, this particular file, I've made some changes. I don't want to commit that change, but I want to leave the branch. Now, I added this new file called stash.py. The mistake I made earlier was that I didn't add it to the staging area. So in Git's eyes, there was no new file, right? But now I've added it to the staging area. Now I'm sure if I want to leave this branch, it will not allow me. Well, really. Anyways. Well, it's not like it will not allow you, but it's like warn you, something like that. That say that something like you want to leave, you cannot leave, sort of, that you have to like either commit or stash. I think it's because I've stashed it already. Oh, I guess it's because I've stashed it already. Yeah, I guess it's because I've stashed it already.
Yeah, is there a way to unstash? Like if you want to unstash?
Yep. I just do git pop to do it. Sorry, not git checkup. Git stash. No, not git pop actually. It should be git let me say git help. I think it's git stash drop or something like that. Yeah, git stash clear. Yeah, git stash clear, absolutely. I haven't written it down. So let me get out of these git stash lists. Okay, I have just one stash left. Let me do git stash clear. Perfect. Git stash. Just go up. Git stash lists. Nothing. Okay. So let me say git status to see what I've got. I have one file in the staging area. Ideally.
Okay, so we have to use this stash clear to clear it.
Yeah, to clear my to stash clear is to clear. Stash list is to see the list of stashes you have. Stash pop is to return, like I mentioned, right? When you're using stash, Git just saves what you're changing because it's not a commit, right? It saves it temporarily, right? So when you do git stash pop, Git bring that change back. Do you understand? That's the idea of stash, but I don't know why I'm not able to like show it here. It's super strange. Git status is saying this. I'm not committing, right? Git status says this. Changes to be committed. If I leave, it should not allow me leave, but it's allowing me leave. I think it's a configuration I've done. Normally, it should not allow me leave, but I think so of course I played around with my Git profile before, and then I've done a couple of things, right? So ideally, when you add something to the staging area and you want to leave without committing, you add something to a staging area, you want to leave without committing, Git will not allow you leave. It's either you commit it or you stash it. Now, committing means you are saving that snapshot. But with stashing, you're not saving the snapshot. You're just like keeping it somewhere temporarily. You understand? So it kind of goes, it doesn't save, but it saves temporarily. It doesn't save permanently, but it saves temporarily. So you can go to another branch, do whatever you want to do. And then once you know that you are back to your branch, you can now git stash pop, which I explained. So if I say git stash, for instance, yeah, if I say git stash, just save that, right? But for some reason, still bringing, let me see, cat. I think this is more like what I wanted. Why was it doing it earlier? So as you can see, because I attached it, I added a new file before, but now the file is no longer there because I attached it. So again, like I said, when you attach something, it kind of reverses as if it did not save, but it has saved. Do you understand? So I created a new file called stash.py. But when I try to view the file, it's no longer there. You can see stash.py is no longer available. Right, let me confirm I'm in this branch, git branch. Okay, I'm in my main branch, that's why. Git checkout test stash. The file will appear. Trying to refresh this. And let me just say ls. The file is no longer there. What branch is this file save? Test stash, yeah. So the file is no longer there, which is what I was trying to get at since. So stash. And the file is no longer there. That's because I have stashed it, right? So because I stashed it, the file is no longer there, but the file is saved somewhere. The file is saved somewhere. So let me say git stash list. You can see this is the last stash I did. Now, if I want to apply that stash back, I just say git stash pop. So git stash pop means the last stash I've done, bring it back. I want the changes I've made, bring it back. I want it back in my branch. So now if I do ls, you can see stash.py is not there.
Okay, so David, I also I'm keeping something now.
Yep.
So maybe it's just like maybe you are working on a particular project and probably maybe you actually made this file and maybe your boss says, okay, this file is not what I need. You need to like make this particular thing, print something else. So maybe you don't want to delete that file because you still want to use it.
Exactly.
Then you now stash it and later on bring it back again.
Absolutely.
To the time you want to use it. Okay, I think I get
that's how it works, really. That's just the idea. The idea is that you don't need it now, but you may need it later. You want to keep it. You just want to keep it somewhere. You understand? It's not a commit. You're keeping it. Stash is almost like a commit, but it's not a commit because for a commit, everybody can see it. Everybody can know that you've done this at this point in time. Because a commit will have a commit hash. It also have a commit message. It have the name of the person, the email of the person, the time of the person, right? But stash is like temporary. It don't have all those things. It's just a temporary way. Okay, guys, reverse this thing, but keep these changes. When I need these changes, bring it back. Right, and that's what I did here. So initially, I created this stash.py, right? Then I stashed it, as you can see. Then after stashing, when I checked for the existence of the file, it says no file existed, right? Now, when I unstash it, you unstash with pop, right? Git stash pop. It's not telling me that this file is existing again, and I confirm with ls, and you can see that the file has come back. So guys, I hope you guys understand what stash does. Yeah. I hope I was clear enough. If there's any question, please do it to ask. So now let's talk about something really interesting. Okay, I've been saying everything is really interesting now. But yeah, let's talk about something really interesting. It's called git merge and git rebase. I think I've talked about merge already. Right, I've talked about.
I think you wanted to discuss about it, but then you didn't go in fully.
Okay. So now to discuss merge, let me check my log again. Git log one line. Okay, I have a couple log. I have a couple of branches already, which is good. Let me confirm that my test touch. Okay, cool. So now with merge is just saying, guy, what I've done, right? Merge it with this branch. Git will find a way of merging it. If there's a conflict, that's when Git will raise a problem that there's a conflict. But if there's no conflict, it will just merge it. Now, the difference between merge and rebase, it's how it does the merging. Now, you can see with merge, this is the main.py. This is the main branch. This is your own branch. When you use git merge, Git just Git just joins it together and add just one commit. That commit will be merge, like something has been merged. I think I did something like that here. Yeah, that's why you can see there's a merge pull request. Really, when you merge, Git just adds just one commit and says these are merged, right? But when you rebase, although the outcome of the files will be the same, rebase changes. It's very important. Rebase changes the history. It changes the commit history. In this case, the commit will be like, okay, maybe commit 1, commit 2, commit 3, commit 4. The commit 4 is this merge. That'll be all. But with rebase starts with commit 1, commit 2, commit 3. Then it takes this like the foundation. It doesn't merge all these branches as one and just bring this. It takes this as its foundation and start again. So this is the next commit. So it's like it's overlapping two commits on top of each other. Basically, you're just changing history because you didn't do all this. How is it? You should not show in your branch. Right? This is not what you did. This is like the main branch. So it should not show in your own branch. All the commit of the main branch should not show. But if you use rebase, all the commit of the main branch will show. Then your own branches, your own commits will be starting from the end of the main branch. So it's like you're stacking a branch on top of each other. The main branch is your base, and then your own branch it will stay on top of it. Is that clear, guys? Because of course I'll talk about some examples right now. I think I've spoken about merge, but let me just do a few more commits. Let me just say git. Okay, let me say touch xyz dot txt git and git and dfg.txt git commit 1. Let me just add a couple of commits to explain merge and rebase. So touch 2 pine. Am I using this touch? I think I like touch like something. 2 pine. Add 2 pine. Git commit message commit 2. Git. Let me add one more file. Touch 3.py git and 3.py git commit message commit 3. So if I check git log, one line, I have a couple of commits, which is nice. Now let's say I want to merge these commits with my main branch. Like I mentioned, there are different ways to do it. You can either just merge, and with merging, you just merge it together. I think let's talk about rebase now. Anyway, let's talk about rebase this time. So to explain that, I also need to add some commits to my main branch. So let's go to main branch, git checkout main, and then let me touch some file. Let me just add the file. Let me call it main1.txt, and let me add it main1.txt git commits new feature while away. Oh, I made a mistake there. How did I even get out of this nonsense? Okay, condition. Git commits message new feature while away. Okay, good. Now, guys, my main branch has one additional commit, and me, I did not know. So I came to work on Monday. My boss told me, guy, pull this main branch, add this feature. So I started working. But while I was working, my other colleague, Femi, has done some work and my boss has approved it. So it's in the main branch. So the main branch has some extra commits. That's the point I'm just trying to make. The main branch has a new commit while I was away. I didn't know, but well, they can't wait for me to finish before I continue with the main branch, right? So now to merge, there are two ways to merge it. Is either I just merge. Merging is simple, right? It takes all the commits that has happened in the main branch and just add it to like a new commit. Right. The second merge is rebase. Rebase means whatever has happened in the main branch should be my foundation. That should be where I should start from. Then you now add all the other branches I've done on top. Does it make sense, guys? So let's now play around with that. Let me add one more file. Let me just add one more file. Touch main2.txt git add into.txt git commit second feature one away. Yep. So they've added two features while I was away. I mean, I was still working with my own branch, right? So now, let me to show you again. Let me say git log online. These are, just take note of this. These are the commits on my main branch. And let me check out to the other branch. Git checkout git log online. Right? These are the commits. You can see that they are different. For instance, first of all, you have to understand where's the foundation. The foundation is in this place here. This is the foundation of both of them. It's from this point that we started doing anyhow. This guy moved on, I also moved on. So if I want to merge, if I merge directly, which I don't really explain because I've explained already. So if I just do git merge, what git will do is that these new things I've done, right? These new things that's happened in the main branch, it will just put another, it will match all these commits together as one. To squash it, they call it squash. It will squash these commits and just add one single branch on top, one single commit rather on top. So it will be like a new commit hash, and you see something like this kind of thing, where it's merge, there's a merge somewhere. Do you understand? That is git merge. Simple. Most of the time, you should actually use git merge. As I said, all the things that we have discussed before now are the things you use 80% of the time. These ones are just like extra things you want to play around with. So for rebase, what will happen is that Git will find out where the problem started. So the difference started from where now? It started from here, right? Right. So if I do rebase, Git will pick these two branches separately, add it on top of this, then add my own on top of it. So this is like my base branch, and then it is going to add these new extra branches I've done on top. To explain, let me just do git rebase and main, right? Git rebase main. Main means make main my base when merging. Successfully did that, and let's come and check our log line, and you realize you can see before this was my commit log, right? There's nothing like second feature while I was away, first feature while I was away. These were in my main branch, but I've added it to my second branch here, to my text stash branch, right? So what happened is that, like I said, this is like a commit history. So what git rebase does is that it changes history, it changes history, it changes your commit history, which is not good if you're working with people. So if I was working with someone else and this person had this history, but because I did rebase at some point, my own history has changed, we cannot work together, right? So ideally, you should not work with git rebase except you're working alone and you don't want to. So the advantage of the rebase, because I'm asking what's not the advantage if it's not good, right? The advantage of rebase is if you don't want to work with too many parallel branches, right? You just want to work with one. You know that, oh, this part was all from my main branch, right? All these parts were from my main branch. From year to year was from my main branch, and then from year to year is now the new additions I add. You can see this is what my main branch. They're all the same, right? So this is like the base. Rebase just means take this as the base, right? If I had used merge, my new git log one line will be this plus just one new commit, and that commit will contain these two things. First feature while I was away and second feature while I was away. But with Rebase,
it's better to use merge than
it's generally better to use merge. It's better to use merge than Rebase. But like I said, Rebase allows you to work with a singular like list. You don't have different commit histories here and there, you know. But with merge, so you can see here with Rebase, this is what Rebase will do: one singular commit history. Although you are changing your own history, this should be your history. This plus this. That should be your history, right? But your own history is now this plus this. So that's the difference between merge and Rebase. I think I've mentioned this already. So merge add changes in one branch as one commit on top of your branch. So you just add all the other changes. So everything, if like the person must have done, if they have done 50 changes on the main branch, it does add all those changes as one single commit. That is what Git merge does. But with Git Rebase, it moves your branches to the tip of the main branch. Let's assume you're using the main branch now. It moves all the changes you've done, all the commits you've done, it moves it to the tip of the main branch. So it makes the main branch the base and then adds all your own commit on top. So that's Git branch and Git Rebase. Okay, now this is actually also a very interesting thing. Interactive Rebase. And I hope I don't scare you with this, but yeah, interactive Rebase, it gives you a lot of flexibility, really. So initially, I don't know if you guys remember, I need to end this meeting very soon, man. Damn, a couple of things I need to do tonight. So let's be faster. So interactive Rebase is a way of adding more flexibility to what you can do. So interactive Rebase allows you to edit a commit message. Remember when I said you use git commit amend? I don't even remember. Git commit amend allows you to change the commit message of only the last commits. You cannot change 2 commits away. You cannot change 3 commits away. But with interactive Rebase, you can change for as many commits as you want, right? That is what interactive Rebase allow you to do. I get the message. So yeah, we're rounding off soon. I don't know. I think, like I said, these are not things you want to do often, but let's just assume you want to learn it, right? Let's assume you want to learn it. So let's do Git Rebase. When you're using interactive Rebase, use I, and then you specify how many steps away you want your head to go to. So let's say I want my head to go to the last 4. Oh, this is head, not jet. Sweet. Okay, so now this is like a to-do. What do you want to do really? I have this 4 comment as my last 4. I have this comment as my last 4 commits. What exactly do I want to do? Let's say I want to merge these 2 commits together. I don't want the 2 commits to be separate. I want to merge it. What I'll do is come here. I need to first come to interactive. You can see there's something called squash. It said used to merge into previous commits. So let's say I want to merge 1 and 2. I need to come to I. What's going on? Yep, I need to come here. I want to merge 1 and 2, so I come to 2 and change this to squash, right? I get out of it. I press WQ, get out of it this way. It's asking me what should be the new commit name since these 2 commits will no longer be there. So let me just clear this I and let me call it commit 1 and 2 combined. So if I get out of these, I save it, it has done that. It has successfully merged those 2 commits together. To confirm, let me do git rebase. I'm sorry, not git rebase now. Git log 1 line. And you can see before I add these 2 commits, commit 1, commit 2, but now I have commit 1 and commit 2 combined. Now I can do many other things with Rebase. You saw a lot of things when you saw that to do. I can squash, I can drop a commit. So if you realize that is a commit you have, you don't want it to be there, you can delete the commits, you can squash commits, you can rename commits, you can do any of that, many things. Once you just type this, you go to an interactive terminal, it tells you what you want to do, and then boom, you do it. So let's not waste too much time. Let's just be super fast now. I think, alas, so basically, I'm just going to be I'm going to rush this really. So alias just allows you like sometimes you can imagine that we're doing a lot of Git checkouts, Git status, Git add. There are times when you just want to do things sharp. There's no time to waste time. You understand? So alias help you do that, right? If you do a lot of Python, I'm sure it's like the imports pandas as PD, right? The idea is that you want to use PD anytime you want to use pandas, right? So let's work with alias. Use git config global alias. Let's say I want to make all my status. Anytime I use git status, I want it to be st. So I just do st and I come here and write status. So this anytime I do git st, you can realize that it does what status would have done, right? So this is alias. You can play around with it. I mentioned you can even edit the entire okay, so let me just show you. You can edit the entire git config. So if I come to cat this, you can see I've added this alias. So if I can add more alias and all, whatever I want to do is if I want to add, okay, let me use nano to fast. So let's say I want to
Can
add.
I change this comment to C? Just C.
Is that what?
Can I change this commit to C?
Absolutely, you can do anything. Let's do that. So commit C, right? Let's save. Good. So now git C. Of course, you still require your message anyway. So message will be check alias. Let's see. Okay, because it has a message, you need to actually do this. Let me show you guys. You need to do this. So you need to like add what because Git has a message box, right? You need to do -m. You need to add this really because for commits you need a message. You need to do this. So now let's do it again. So let me save this. So this time I'll just do git c check alias. And you can see this is exactly the same thing we would have done if I use git commit, right? So this is how to use alias. I think we want to round up now. So if you're done with all your alias and you want to remove it, you can just use this git global. Let's just do this, and then it deletes all the alias for me. Good. So if I come back and do git c, which I did earlier, it will not work. It doesn't know what you're talking about. So see, are you doing git clone? Are you doing git commit? You know, all that. Okay. The last thing, which is I think is also nice to discuss, is git revert and git. Okay, these are just simple stuff really. So I'm going to, because I want to round up right now. I want to give room for comments, for questions. So git reverse, basically as the name suggests, what it does is git reverse commit hash, which is the ID. It goes back to that commit, but it doesn't clear your history. Okay, let me just explain. Let's say we have git log one line, right? I have these are all my commits. These are all my commits, right? Let's say I want to go back to this particular commit where I was exactly the same way when I was like this. I just do git revert this. Of course, it asks for whatever. Let me just take the default name, right? Revert new feature while away. That's a commit to take. So WQ. So if I do this again, you can see I have a new commit called this. But if you check the content of my file, it will be the content of the file while I was in this commit. So I've forgotten what it was there, but this was how my file was while I was in that commit, basically. You understand? Then for reset is like it's a harder way of doing this revert. Now for reset, you realize that what I add here is still saved. You can say add commits 3, commits 2, and add everything here. If I use reset, it's going to clear it completely. So guys, be careful with reset. It's not something you want to use all the time, right? So let's say I want to go back to this commit and delete everything afterwards. I use reset. So let's say I want to go back to this new feature while away. So I come to git reset hash. It does that, and then let's say git log online. You can see that's gone. That's deleted this everything I did there gone. Everything gone. So that's when you want to go back and comment. I think those are the major things really. So yeah, best practices. Number one, I would say you should try to always commit frequently because commits are like snapshots or like save points. and you want to ensure that you commit as much as you can, so that whenever you want to go back to your commit, you can easily do that. Other thing is that you also like write descriptive commit messages. You also want to do that. And third thing you want to do is to ensure you work with other branches. Don't use the main branch, right? Create new branches. And then the last thing is, or the fourth thing is that create pull requests whenever you want to match. Don't match directly into it's just like a follower of this one, right? Once you're working with another branch, you have to create a pull request before you can match. And the last one is try to use git ignore, because what people do sometimes is that you just do git add. Git add dots add all the files you have to the staging area. And there are times when you don't want all the files you have to the staging area. You don't want to add all the files in the staging area. You only want to add the files you have edited. You understand? Because if you add all the files to the staging area and you're gonna make a small mistake, maybe you're gonna remove one comma from one Python file, it would affect the entire code base. So just to be certain, or just to be sure, it's always good that you add particular files. I rarely use git add dots. Always use git add file name to be specific what exact file you want to add. Because if you add all the files and you made a mistake, you just went to make a small error, it messes up the entire code base, right? So again, to be extra sure, you can, if you know that you don't want Git to track a particular file for whatever reason, just add that file path to a git ignore file, right? So there's something called git.gitignore.
So I want to ask, so now if I want to like maybe add like 5 files or something, and I want to add only 4. I don't want to add the last type. I can use git add dot ignore then the file name.
I'm not sure, but if you want to do that, I would rather think you can do git add dot, add everything, then git remove cache. I'm not talking about cache, removing files from the staging area, right? So git remove, or git rm rather, git rm --- cache file name. So the last file you don't want to add, you remove it. Or you add git add individual files. So you do that 4 times and add all the individual files. But of course, if that will waste your time, you can just do git what's it called now? Git add all, then remove that one. If you're using git ignore, what we do is that you add that file path to git ignore, right? So let's say let's say present working directory. This is the working directory, right? So I copy this. So let's touch dot git ignore. Good. So I nano into it, nano the git ignore, and then I paste it, right? And let's say I want to, not for any reason, I don't want to track this file for any reason whatsoever. I just paste the path in this dot git ignore, and then whatever git add I do, it should not show. I'm not sure it will work here because I already added it already, but let me just confirm. Let's see, is it there? I think I did welcome.py, right? I don't think it's there, but basically once you add any paths to your git ignore file, it will not track it no matter what, right? That's how it works. Okay, so I guess that's it. That's it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Guys, ask me questions or say something at least. Let me turn on my camera.
Yeah, please, let's ask question. Is probably the time to ask question. Yeah.
Well, if there are no questions, it means I did a good job then.
like someone said that Git should be a language of its own.
Yeah, it is.
I think so.
It is, man. It is. There are a lot of commands. Sometimes the error can be really annoying, I tell you. But once you understand the logic behind Git, you'll be fine. You just need to understand the logic. And I mentioned already the 3 main things. You will know where your file is. Either it's in the local directory, staging area, or the remote directory. Yeah, Emmanuel, thank you very much. Appreciate the kind words.
It's really amazing. I hope our record is not.
Yeah, I think it's there. Maybe I should stop it now.